Welcome everyone, join us today as we explore the extraordinary journey of Glenn Shorrock, the singer from wartime England who became one of Australia's most recognisable voices, from the Twilights and Axiom, to global success with Little River Band and beyond. So let's dive in. Glenn Barry Shorrock, born on June 30, 1944, in Chatham, Kent, England. Glenn was raised in Rochester, in the county of Kent, east of London, during the final year of the Second World War. His parents, Harry and Joyce, were working-class people who did their best to maintain a sense of normal family life amid wartime hardship. Harry, a fitter and turner, originally from Yorkshire, worked at a barrage balloon plant at Rochester Airport, which was often the target of German bombers. Joyce came from Cockney, London, and in 1950 the couple would welcome their second child, a daughter named Linda. Despite the lingering scars of the Blitz, Glenn remembered his childhood as happy and secure. His extended family was close-knit and sociable, and he grew up surrounded by laughter, stories, and music. The family enjoyed trips to the cinema, days at the beach in Cornwall and Devon, and outings to car races. His father was a natural entertainer with a tenor voice who loved to sing Italian opera arias, not in Italian, but phonetically, which would amuse everyone around him. From this mix of Yorkshire grit and Cockney charm, Glenn inherited a love for performing, showing off, and making people smile, instincts that would shape his future career. In August 1954, when Glenn was 10 years old, the Shorrock family decided to emigrate to Australia as 10-pound Poms. They boarded the RMS Orchids, and arrived in Adelaide at a basic passenger terminal, before being sent to the Spartan migrant housing at Finsbury Park. The difficult living conditions and harsh heat of South Australia's summer, which had days of 42 degrees Celsius, or 108 degrees Fahrenheit, and the Black Sunday bushfires of January 1955, left Joyce unhappy, and after 9 months she took Glenn and Linda back to Britain. Yet less than a year later, the family decided to try again, returning to Adelaide in 1956 aboard the Fairsea. This time they settled more permanently in the new satellite suburb of Elizabeth, north of Adelaide. Life there began to take on a routine. Harry found steady work at the General Motors Holden plant, while Joyce kept house and later took a job in a local department store. Glenn attended Gawler High School, where he was 12 by the time the family had fully resettled. Elizabeth was a tough, working-class migrant enclave, but also a place that bred remarkable musical talent. The Swan and Barnes families lived nearby, the future homes of John Swan and Jimmy Barnes, and Adelaide itself would soon give rise to other stars, such as Jim Keys of the Masters Apprentices, B. Birtles of Little River Band, and singer Linda George. Young Glenn was captivated by the rock and roll explosion of the 1950s. He devoured the records of Elvis Presley, Little Richard, Chuck Berry, Fats Domino, and Bill Haley and the Comets. His first brush with live performance came in 1958 at St. Peter's Lutheran Church Hall in Elizabeth. Mimicking Elvis Presley's All Shook Up with a cardboard guitar, Glenn mimed along to the record until the gramophone unexpectedly stopped. Forced to continue singing on his own, he suddenly realized that he had a voice strong enough to hold an audience. It was a turning point that gave him the confidence to pursue performing more seriously. After finishing Year 10, Glenn left school and secured a job as a junior draftsman with the South Australian Mines Department, but music had already taken hold of him. In 1962, he joined with friends Mike Sykes, Clem McCartney, and Billy Volrath to form the Checkmates, a harmony-based doo-wop group inspired by the Platters, the Crew Cuts, and Dion and the Belmonts. They sang a cappella numbers and often teamed up with instrumental outfits such as the Vector Men, or the Hurricanes, performing at Adelaide cafes, halls, and clubs. By 1964, with the Beatles leading the British invasion, Glenn and his bandmates realized that vocal harmonies alone weren't enough, they needed the full power of a beat group. Soon, members of the Checkmates merged with the Hurricanes to create a new lineup, the Twilights. The group featured Glenn and Clem McCartney sharing lead vocals, with Frank Barnard on drums, later replaced by Laurie Pryor, Peter Brydock on guitar, Terry Britton on guitar, and John Bywaters on bass. The Twilights quickly became a major force on the Adelaide scene. Their debut single, I'll Be Where You Are, co-written by Glenn and Terry Britton, was released in June 1965 and showed the band's promise as both writers and performers. They developed a reputation for immaculate harmonies, tight musicianship, and high-energy shows. Their set lists included covers of Jan and Dean, Bob Dylan, the Kingston Trio, and, most impressively, note-perfect renditions of Beatles songs. Melbourne club owner and manager Gary Spry recognised their potential and urged the band to relocate to Melbourne, the epicentre of Australia's booming beat music scene. By late 1965, the Twilights made the move and began carving out a national reputation. Their first significant national hit came in 1966 with If She Finds Out, a Beatles-inspired track written by Bright Oak and Britton, which reached number 24 on the charts. More success followed, with a string of 8 consecutive hit singles. Among them were their polished renditions of the Velvelettes, Needle in a Haystack, and the Hollies, What's Wrong with the Way I Live, the latter recorded at Abbey Road Studios in London, a major coup for an Australian group of the era. In July 1966, the Twilights won Hoadley's Battle of the Sounds, one of the most important competitions in Australian pop music, and their prize was a trip to London. This victory cemented their reputation as one of the most exciting live bands in the country. Upon returning to Australia in 1967, they stunned audiences by performing the Beatles' entire Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band album live on stage, in sequence, before the album was even officially released in Australia, a bold move that showcased both their skill and their ambition. By the late 1960s, the Twilights had earned a reputation not only for their chart success but also for their professionalism and creativity. However, as the decade drew to a close, the pressures of constant touring and changing musical tastes began to take their toll, and in January 1969, the Twilights officially disbanded. Glenn, now a seasoned performer with years of experience behind him, moved on to the next chapter of his career, taking on the role of band manager for Brisbane pop group The Avengers. Still only in his mid-20s, the call to perform was too strong, and it wasn't long before Glenn returned to the spotlight. Later in 1969, he teamed up with another respected name from the local scene, Brian Cadd, former member of the group. Together they formed Axiom, a band that many critics now look back on as Australia's first supergroup. Alongside Glenn and Cadd were guitarist Chris Stockley from Cam Pact, bassist Don Moody from the group, and drummer Doug Lavery from the Valentines. Axiom set out with big ambitions, to move beyond the simple pop formulas of the 60s and into more sophisticated, album-oriented rock. Their debut single, Arkansas Grass, released late in 1969, gave them their first taste of chart success, peaking inside the national top 10. Though written by Cadd, Glenn's warm, soulful vocals carried the track and gave it a distinctive character. The band followed up in 1970 with A Little Ray of Sunshine, a heartfelt ballad that became one of their most enduring songs. Glenn's delivery struck a chord with listeners, and the track remains a classic of the era. That same year, Axiom released their debut album, Fool's Gold, a record that hinted at the ambitions of the band, blending country rock influences with pop sensibility. By 1970, Axiom decided to try their luck internationally. Like so many Australian acts at the time, they believed that real success lay overseas, particularly in the United States and the United Kingdom. They travelled to London, signed with Warner Brothers, and recorded their second album, If Only. Although it included standout songs like My Baby's Gone and Matter of Time, international success eluded them. The competition was fierce, and despite their talent, Axiom couldn't quite break through, so by 1971, disheartened, the band dissolved. For Glenn, however, the London experience was eye-opening. He decided to remain in England, hoping to carve out a new path. He picked up work as a session singer, lending his distinctive voice to radio jingles, advertising campaigns, and even backing vocals for Cliff Richard. His adaptability and professional reputation made him a sought-after voice in the studio scene. While in the UK, Glenn also became involved in an ambitious, though short-lived, band project called Esperanto Rock Orchestra. This progressive rock outfit featured a rotating lineup of international musicians and was known for its complex arrangements that mixed rock with symphonic elements. Glenn recorded and toured with Esperanto during 1973, appearing on their album Esperanto Rock Orchestra. However, the group never reached a mainstream audience, and Glenn eventually moved on. By the mid-1970s, Glenn was still in England, but he was beginning to feel the pull of home. Around this time, two fellow Australians, guitarist Beeb Birtles and guitarist-vocalist Graham Goebel, both formerly of the band Mississippi, were in the process of putting together a new group. They invited Glenn to return to Australia and become their lead singer. It was an offer that would change his life forever. In 1975, Glenn returned to Melbourne and joined forces with Birtles, Goebel, guitarist Rick Formosa, bassist Roger McLaughlin, and drummer Derek Pellicci to form Little River Band. From the very beginning, the group aimed higher than most Australian bands of the era. Rather than chasing short-lived pop stardom, they wanted to craft polished, radio-friendly rock that could stand shoulder to shoulder with the best from America. Glenn's smooth, soulful voice was central to this vision, perfectly suited to the soft rock sound that was gaining popularity in the mid-1970s. Their self-titled debut album, Little River Band, was released in 1975 and spawned their first hits, including Curiosity Killed the Cat. The band quickly built a reputation in Australia, but it was overseas where they truly set their sights. Their breakthrough came with their second album, After Hours, in 1976, which began to attract attention in the United States. By 1977, with the release of their third album, Diamantina Cocktail, Little River Band had truly arrived on the world stage. Songs like Help Is On Its Way, sung by Glenn, became international hits, breaking into the American charts and earning the group recognition abroad. Their fourth album, Sleeper Catcher, in 1978, only cemented their reputation, featuring hits such as Reminiscing and Lady. Reminiscing, in particular, became a massive success in the US, reaching number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100, and has since become one of the defining soft rock tracks of the era. Throughout the late 1970s, Little River Band toured extensively across America, where they were embraced by audiences hungry for the polished harmonies and smooth production the band delivered. They became the first Australian band to achieve sustained chart success in the United States, with multiple top 10 singles and gold and platinum albums. Glenn was at the heart of it all, his vocals steering the band through their most successful years. However, success brought pressures, and by the early 1980s, tensions began to rise within the group, particularly over management decisions, songwriting, and the relentless touring schedule. In 1982, Glenn was controversially replaced as lead vocalist by John Farnham. The move shocked fans, as Glenn's voice had become synonymous with the band's biggest hits. During this time, Glenn pursued a solo career, releasing his debut solo album Villain of the Piece in 1982. Though it didn't reach the heights of his work with Little River Band, it established him as a capable solo artist in his own right. That same year, Glenn toured Australia and soon after released a duet with Renee Geyer, Going Back, in early 1983. That same year he also recorded We're Coming to Get You, with the Bushwhackers, which reached number 6 and became the theme song for the film of the same name. Later that year he put out Don't Girls Get Lonely, followed in 1984 by Restless, for the documentary World Safari 2, The Final Adventure with Albie Mangles. In 1985, Glenn marked his career highlights with the double album The First 20 Years, featuring work from the Twilights, Axiom, Little River Band, and his solo efforts. He also branched into broadcasting, hosting ABC TV's Rock Arena in 1986 and later working as a breakfast announcer for Sydney radio station Magic 11. His solo single American Flyers appeared mid-year, and he joined the stage tour One for the Money in 1986–87. Later he would go on to appear in Evita, in 1989, and starred in his own productions, Go Cat Go, in 1990–91, and Two Up, in 1996. By 1988, however, history repeated itself. Little River Band's fortunes had declined with Farnham at the helm, and Glenn was invited back as lead singer. After rejoining Little River Band in 1988, Glenn spent the next several years juggling touring commitments and his solo pursuits. His return gave the group some stability, and though they never regained their late 70s chart dominance, they remained a popular live act, particularly in the United States where their reputation had been built. On the 25th of March 1991, Glenn was inducted into the ARIA Hall of Fame alongside Billy Thorpe, Peter Dawson, and Don Burrows. 2 years later, he reunited with former Axiom partner Brian Cadd to release Blazing Salads and 3 singles on Blue Martin Records, followed by a 2-year tour. Their shows featured Glenn's solo hits and Axiom favorites. In 2000, Glenn released Spin Me Round, an album that combined new material with re-recordings of some of his most celebrated tracks. Perhaps one of the biggest moments of Glenn's later career came in 2002, when he took part in the Long Way to the Top concert series. The tour was a landmark event in Australian music history, uniting the biggest names from the 1950s through the 1970s for a series of sellout arena shows of classic hits. That same year, Glenn reunited with Beeb Birtles and Graham Goebel to form Birtles Shorrock Goebel, and 2 years later the classic 70s lineup of Little River Band, Glenn, Birtles, Goebel, David Briggs, George McArdle, and Derek Pelleggi, were inducted into the ARIA Hall of Fame. Performing under the classic lineup banner due to legal restrictions on the LRB name, the trio released the live DVD and CD Full Circle in 2005 and toured together until 2007, even appearing at the Countdown Spectacular with a medley of their biggest hits. Glenn also branched out with his own projects, launching the Reminiscing tour in 2005, with guests like Doug Parkinson and Wendy Matthews, and the following year competing on the first season of It Takes Two, with actress Judy Nunn. In 2007 he released Meanwhile, an acoustic set of career highlights, and went on to perform in tributes like Let It Be, celebrating the music of the Beatles. Over the next decade he kept busy with musicals, retrospectives, and tours, including a 2008 role in Shout the Legend of the Wild One, and a special 2010 concert marking 45 years in music. He also accepted high-profile invitations, such as headlining international shows in 2013 for Clive Palmer's Titanic 2 project. His achievements were further honored with induction into the South Australian Music Hall of Fame in 2014. The release of his autobiography Now Where Was I? In 2018, an appointment as a member of the Order of Australia in 2020 for his services to music. In 2021, Glenn appeared in the Australian film A Stitch in Time, showing that even after decades in the spotlight, he remained a vital figure in the arts. Since 2022, Glenn has continued to tour extensively and perform at events across Australia, including his Reminiscing show, still touring in 2025, while also releasing new music and maintaining an active presence on social media to connect with his fans. He has been performing with a 5-piece band and continues to be a beloved figure in the Australian music scene. On a personal note, Glenn's personal life has been as eventful as his career. He met his first wife, Melbourne nurse Sue Doran, in 1966, and the couple married the following year. Their relationship ended in 1971, shortly after his years with the Twilights and Axiom. In 1975, while working at Armstrong Studios in Melbourne, Glenn crossed paths with video producer Joe Swan. Their friendship grew as Little River Band was recording its first album in the same building, and by 1980 the two were married. They remained together for decades, weathering the ups and downs of Glenn's demanding career. However, after more than 40 years, the marriage came to an end, with the couple separating in 2019 and finalizing their divorce in 2020. Later, Glenn found love again, and on the 21st of December 2021, he married Irene Rose, a teacher, in a ceremony that marked a new chapter in his personal life. Through the years, Glenn has also faced health struggles. He has battled arthritis, anxiety, and stage fright, challenges that might surprise fans given his long career on stage. In recent years, he has also been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, a condition he continues to face with dignity, keeping the disease at bay with the help of his medication regimen. Now based in Port Douglas, Queensland, Glenn enjoys a quieter lifestyle. Even with health setbacks, he continues to perform selectively, his voice still carrying the warmth, strength and soul that made him famous. And there you have it. From his early struggles as a migrant kid in Elizabeth, to fronting one of Australia's greatest musical exports, his career has left an unforgettable mark on music history. Even now, Glenn continues to inspire all, as well as his beloved fans, with his music, his strength, and of course, his unforgettable voice. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos on music icons, just like this. Take care and bye for now.